people coming in. We're going to wait for a little while for everyone to join, but welcome, welcome.
Seeing a lot of really familiar names, which is exciting. Hi, everybody. Some new
Hello
names.
and welcome.
It's awesome.
Go ahead, Jynessa.
Now I'm seeing familiar names, new names. Just really excited to meet everybody.
Yeah. Well, hello and welcome. And we are just going to wait for a little while to let everybody have a chance to join.
I'm just gonna have a little sip of my coffee beforehand before we start talking.
All right. Well, the participants have been holding steady for a little while. So if everyone is ready, we can
Yeah.
probably go ahead and start. And I will start off with an introduction. So hello and welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be hearing about using the power of meez and Fishbowl to maximize your margins. Before we begin, everyone is free to ask questions as we go along using the QA feature at the bottom of the Zoom panel there. We'll be able to answer some of them at the end of the talk, and we'll try and get to as many as possible in the time we have. Moving on, meez and Fishbowl are powerful, independent platforms for restaurants. And when you join them together, you get what our CEO calls the holy grail for operators, a true understanding of lifetime customer value. It has to do with understanding costs and guest behaviors. Moving along to introductions. Ursula is the director of partnerships and events at meez. She has real-world experience as a baker and an owner of Jeff and Jude's, a restaurant in Chicago, and her experience makes her a key player at meez. meez is a culinary operating system of sorts and empowers over 25,000 food and beverage operators to streamline their kitchen operations, bridging the gap between culinary arts and technology solutions. And Jynessa is the Vice President of Insights at Fishbowl. She's a technologist helping restaurants to build deeper guest relationships. Fishbowl serves more than 50,000 restaurants and clients, and Delightable is our guest relationship management platform, or GRM, which is revolutionizing how restaurants engage with guests. Delightable gives operators the power to predict better guest experiences and outcomes based on an unprecedented understanding of guest behaviors and preferences. So, without further ado, we'll let them take it from here.
Thank you so much. I even wore the same shirt as in my picture, so you know it's actually me and not. So let's talk a little bit about Fishbowl. So Fishbowl, aptly named back in 2000, was because restaurants previously would have a fishbowl sitting on the host stand and people would put their business cards in there. We built a whole email mechanism. This was way back when, using AOL, putting in those email addresses to a spreadsheet. And we knew then that being able to interact with your guests was going to be an important way to use technology moving forward. Over the next 20 years, we perfected email, SMS, understanding your guests, using that data. But now in 2023, we roll out a whole new platform that takes not just that membership data, but expands it to all the various guest data that you'll know about a customer. So their transactional details, their reservation details, if they're connecting to your Wi-Fi, and centralizing all that data around a singular guest. In our new product, Delightable, it's again the all-in-one GRM platform, and we try to be really thoughtful about how we organize the actions and the data that you can use within our platform. So we start out with Acquire, which is ability to get in top of funnel guests. So going out and acquire guests using web sign-up forms and other mechanisms to get that guest within your platform. You can also analyze, segment, and review guest data. You can look at the macro, looking at segments. You can look at the micro, looking at individual guests. So when they walk in the door, you know exactly how to communicate with them and what are their preferences. We have multi-channel campaigns and journeys. So this is where you can set up emails, SMS, push, coming soon, social media engagements, all within the same platform. So now you're using that data to be able to communicate effectively to your guests. We have personalized offers and loyalty rewards. And this really becomes interesting when we start blending in the meez data, and we'll show that later on. Guest feedback, you'll be able to interact with guests if they leave feedback on a transaction. So you can have that full circle picture of when somebody leaves a review, then also be able to communicate to them. And the heart of it all and the magic behind everything is our data connection marketplace. What we want to do is create guests, not tickets. So we want to be able to take all this information about customers that we have and create a full picture of a guest. So Alana Williams here will come in through point of sale, reservations, online ordering, and third-party data. And our guest matching algorithm takes all that data and builds a picture around Alana so we can understand where she likes to visit, who's dining with her, what she likes to eat, and how much does she spend. Also collapsing all of her touch points of PII, so her social profiles, her email addresses, her phone numbers, into a singular guest record. Now back to the power of that marketplace connection. We make it super easy to connect your data. So each one of these cards represents a different connection that you can make with the Delightable. So you can click on the cards, put in your integration key, and the data is automatically flowing. We have a near real-time connection to your data. So once you make that connection, you'll see your data within the platform. Here, it's just as easy for me as to click on the card, put in your information, and then that data is connected to Delightable. That data is then appended to your guests to understand what they're ordering, but then also what is the return. And again, we'll continue to talk about that throughout the platform. I'm going to pass it over to Ursula with meez to talk through the meez platform and how taking Delightable with meez will work going forward.
Thank you. Yeah, so let's take a moment to talk just a little bit about what meez is. Actually, would you mind sharing that?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I cut it
Yeah,
out.
that's totally fine. Okay, so let's take a moment to talk about what meez is and why we're here. So meez is going to be a chef-founded culinary solution. Our founder and CEO, Josh Sharkey, came from kitchens and really wanted to be the change he wanted to see in back-of-house operations, making a solution that's going to be a lot more intuitive and user-friendly to work with. As it was mentioned before, I myself also come from kitchens. We are, all in all, a very culinary-driven operation because we wanted to be able to provide smarter recipe management for culinary organizations at scale. So what that means to us, what our ethos is that the center of profitability and scalability in an operation isn't going to come from your inventory or from your AP or, any other sort of third-party solution. Where it's really going to come from is its recipes. Because at the end of the day, if your recipes aren't accurate, what else is actually accurate in your data? So our goal here is to drive your consistency with better training and menu rollouts and daily production. We're going to increase your accuracy with built-in yields and ingredient database that has conversions and allergens already baked right in. And lastly, we're also going to then boost your profitability with menu engineering. And that's where we're going to be connecting to Fishbowl, to Delightable today. So I'm going to go ahead now and take over screen, if you wouldn't mind. And then I will show everyone what it looks like.
Sorry, super bad about switching out over things.
It's always so funny, like working in a tech space, and I myself am terrible at tech, but I guess it makes us a little relatable at the end of the day because we are really working in operations where tech is sometimes a little bit, hard to understand for the kitchen folks. That's why we're here, is to make this user-friendly and easy. So here's what it looks like when you log into meez. I'll just give you a real brief rundown and how this can then tie into Delightable. So we're going to have our homepage where you're able to keep all of your recipes in a single space. You'll be able to organize those recipes into books, as well as keep your non-recipe related materials here. So prep lists, things of all that nature can be kept in one single space. But let's get to the heart of what makes this special and what makes this data very useful for Delightable, and that is going to be our ingredient database. So at Meez, we've done something pretty cool. We have actually created a database of ingredients for you. There are over 2,500 of them, and there's more added all the time, that are going to have built-in conversions already done. So typically speaking, as I'm sure everyone here knows, when you are costing your recipes and your menus, someone has the dreaded task of taking the fact that you've bought 50 pounds of flour, but that you're using it in cups or in grams in a recipe. And they're going to have to sit there and inevitably measure that on a scale or Google a conversion. It is tedious, it is time consuming, it is often not accurate. So we've gone ahead and taken that lift off for you and done those conversions. We've also gone a step further and actually done prep actions for a number of these. So based off of how you've actually prepared an ingredient, we did this over 100 times each ourselves and got you an average yield. So your waste is already factored into your food cost, as well as those conversions. So you or your chefs can continue to write those recipes that call for those 6 quarts of diced onions. And we're going to know exactly the volume that takes up, how much you're throwing out, and therefore how many onions you would need to buy. Now, why this is going to be important is building it into a full recipe. So that's taking that ingredient into the recipe, into the menu, and making better profits with your customer insights with Delightable. So here's what a recipe looks like. You're going to have your ingredients, your photo, your prep. You'll be able to actually add step-by-step pictures and videos for better training. There are also dynamic scalable recipes that you can convert or scale to any number you need to. And also they're going to be costed. Because we have our ingredient database, you're able to pull in your costs a few different ways. Once your costs are pulled in here, you're going to be able to see your total cost of your recipe, as well as your food cost calculator. So you can really make sure that you're hitting your numbers, whether it's defining your percentage or by your sell price. That will then pull in to the big kahuna here, which is going to be your full menu. I'm going to go ahead and pass this over back to Jynessa so that we can talk more about how Delightable is going to use customer data and then what that will play into for your menus.
Awesome. My time to shine to present correctly. Here we go. We did it. So Delightable and Meez partnership means that when Delightable is the central repository of all this data, so your POS data, your Meez data, and your reservation data, all this coming into one central place, now we can understand profit by guest. So looking at if I'm a more profitable guest versus Ursula, depending on the things that I have a preference for or that I'm ordering. We can also understand guest margin segments. So we can file your customers and your guests into segments based upon if they're a low, medium, or high margin guest. So that way you can speak to these different guests in different ways, whether they're giving them different offers based upon how much the return they're actually getting from your guests versus people who have a higher threshold to be able to give them maybe a higher discount. Personalized messaging, so we can use some of that ingredient details to see if a person is ordering items that are typically vegan or have personalized or have more detailed information about from the recipe card, be able to interact with them differently. Then also again, tailored coupons, making sure that you're sending the right coupons so you're not over discounting people and not dipping into your margins too steeply.
And there's also going to be, of course, a mutual benefit here. So we're going to be able to take Meez's laser accurate theoretical menu costs and food costs that I just hinted at a moment ago. That will then get pushed into Delightable so you can make better insights into using that data for your customer profile. But then those customer and guest profiles are going to help inform that actionable menu change. So in our menus in Meez, you'll be able to see immediately how you will increase profits by taking that data and making really smart choices with it so you can continue to scale your vision and your business.
Let's take a look at some of the guests. So we have 4 different guests here who have spent the same amount menu price of $7. But depending on their favorite item that they're ordering, they have very wildly different margin segments. So the 2 people on the left here have a low margin segment. They've been filed into a low margin segment. We have a medium margin segment and then a high margin segment. Your customers will automatically be filed into one of these 3 segmentations based upon your brand's averages. So what what we'll do is we'll plot customers above or below that middle range. So understand who are the people that you don't necessarily want to discount to, and the people that you can afford to discount to because they have a higher margin check. Segmenting guests only just with the automated segments that we will apply to the guest data is super easy within Delightable. We have an AI chatbot similar to ChatGPT where you can interact with your data just by asking it a question. So Ask Harmony allows you to write things like, show me my guests with a profit margin of at least 80% and our high frequency guests. You'll see a list of your guests below. You can click on them individually and see their guest profile, or you can create a segment to then communicate to within our embedded mail platform. We also have a whole host of pre-made segments. If you don't want to use our AI assistant, you can choose the suggested segment. Like this one we have here is the guest margin segment, and you can choose either high, medium, or low and save that segment to be used in targeted campaigns. Now, this is where the cool stuff starts to happen. So we're taking in all of this data about a guest and we're harmonizing it into a guest profile. So we can see here Aziz Wassel, he is a targetable guest. We've tagged him with active, low spend, high frequency, and high margin. All of these segments are pre-made and ready for you to use in Delightable and for your campaigns without having to put any logic behind it. Across the top, you'll see various tabs. We see their profile, their transactions. You'll see all the transactions that this person placed, all the reservations, any notes that might be coming in from a system like OpenTable will be listed here, or you can leave notes about this guest if you want to leave breadcrumbs for your servers to pull up on the profile when they next come in. You can see all their campaigns that they've received, opened and clicked, and also any feedback they might have left. But let's get back to the profile. So the profile connects all that data and fills out all the information that we know about Aziz. His email, his phone, his address, any celebrations that he has coming up, memberships to any various engagement lists that you might have, then also insights. We boil down the insights about each guest to understand their frequency, their gross item margin, so we can see what on average is their item margin. The visit gaps, so typically how long does it take for Aziz to come in? So if we've not seen him in 20 days, that's not usual for Aziz. Maybe we should pop him a campaign saying, hey, we miss you. His favorite day parts and his favorite food as well. So we can understand that Aziz's favorite food is pesto pasta, and we know from the previous segment that pesto pasta is a high margin item. So this might be a guest that we can tailor to and understand what other things that we can push him towards. We also have preferences, so where they like to sit, if they have any allergies, last review given, and a whole host of other details about the guest presented to you in an easy to understand about this person. We also have some reporting. So this is where we can understand per segment, what are some top line details that we can understand about low margin, medium margin, high margin guests. So what's the percentage of guests it represents? What's the average margin, average frequency, and then also the popular entrees. This will come into play when we go back and take a look at Meez's platform to see how we look at treating these different guests differently and how that'll actually impact your Meez trending items. So we can see here for the high margin segment that Aziz falls into, the pasta has a high margin, and a popular add-on here for these high margin guests is a garlic bread. So what I can do is I can take this insight to understand, I'm going to pull all of my high margin guests who have ordered pasta, and I'm going to offer them a free garlic bread because I know within my margins I can allow for that. Using our campaign builder, we can target within the audience our high margin guests. And also we can use our drag and drop editor. Just how it sounds, you can drag and drop different features within a campaign and build that out to be sent out to your guests. So here we see we're featuring a free garlic bread with an order. You can just have to get the spend. It's you and coupon that was redeemed on the check. It's another way of getting your guest data to your actions. So we have a free garlic bread with order pasta, and they have a unique that's generated for they can go to their server and us. And what's really exciting about all this is you're sending out your message that to our, them just or visit in the store that you actually.
Hey,
Let's talk
Jynessa,
more about once we.
sorry, so sorry to interrupt for a moment, but your audio is cutting out. Wonder if we could just do a quick test.
Oh,
Just go ahead and
test. Does this help?
uh,
Can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you now fine. Sounds like it's pretty clear. Maybe go back to the previous slide because there was a little bit of cutout there. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Not sure where we left off here, but the campaign designer itself will allow you to put in a unique QR code for guests to redeem, and then it'll be automatically tracked back to that guest. So another great way of tying guest data back to your transactions. Next step in after this campaign, seeing the meez data now under and your R message. So you can understand when after receiving this campaign, come in and have a visit. What was the actual gross item sales that we earned from this guest and apply that to an ROI per message. What's really interesting is when you start tailoring your messages, you'll actually be able to see the changes within meez. I'm going to pass it over to Ursula to highlight what that looks like.
Thank you, Jynessa. Okay, so we've already taken our cost data in meez and we've given that over to Fishbowl and Delightable so that they can use that to define their guest profiles, right? Now we have these defined guest profiles. We know how profitable each customer coming in is, their value to us, how we can make sure we have them coming back and staying happy. Now, how do we turn that into actionable changes in menus? So let's go ahead and do a walkthrough of meez's menus and where we can take those insights to make immediate profits for your operation. So menus are super cool. They're a newer feature for us that we're really excited about. It allows you to actually build out your full menu using your recipes and ingredients in meez. So we know that they have those really laser accurate theoretical costs already baked right in. It's then also going to give you a snapshot of your overall menu cost, revenue, and profit. So it gives you a really good insight as to where you're at right now. But let's go ahead and make this a little more powerful by taking those guest insights and turning them into more of a profit. So we're actually able to go in here and track variance, and that will really give you immediate insights into where we can make improvements to lower your overall theoretical cost for your menu. Now let's go ahead and start by sorting our food cost percentage. So we're going to see what is running the highest percentage. Right now in this example, it looks like our steak and salsa is incredibly popular. However, it is operating at a higher food cost. So we are able to make these little changes to see what happens if we increase this single item by $1. We're going to be able to see an immediate over $5,000 profit just from that one change for a single popular item. Another is that maybe we're seeing that there is oftentimes the Apple dates law left over on a plate. We don't necessarily always want to have to raise prices on customers. We know that there are other ways to operate more profitably. And maybe that means just taking down the portion size of that slaw. We're going to take that from a 4-ounce to a 3-ounce and see how that affects our menu. We now have, again, over a $4,500 increase in profit and another drop in our percentage. Now, to speak specifically to this new marketing initiative that we can do with Delightable, what if we want to start recommending this lettuce and parm to customers who we know would like that as a common add-on to their customer profile? If we are intending to increase our sales by having this coupon and what that would look like, what happens if we increase our quantity to 3,500? Looks like we get a huge bump here from doing those small insights into our customer profile and how that plays out in our menu costing overall. So within a few moments, you have a guaranteed increase in your profits by making these small changes using Delightable as well as meez. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Jynessa so we can take it to our final little stretch here.
Okay, one more time. I just got to one more time. So I think we're going to open it up to questions now. After seeing both products and how they work together, would love to hear from you what sort of questions you may have, any business problems that you see this solving, or any other questions at all.
It looks like we do have one question. It's what features do you have in product that allow you to drive low margin segment customers upward to a higher margin segment?
So I can take that from the Fishbowl side. So using Delightable, you can target those low margin customers and feature different menu items within the actual communications. You can tailor some of your loyalty rewards around ordering a higher margin item. So similar to like how a Starbucks, you get different points for ordering different things. If you want to move people to these higher margin items, you can use Fishbowl to market those to the right people. Hope that answers your question.
Saw another one come in asking if this recording will be available, and yes, it will be. We will be sending the recording as well as this deck. There's also a couple of self-guided tours in Meez that are linked right into that deck as well. So if you wanted to learn more about the other features that we have, because we're a pretty robust tool, those will be also touched on in those links.
Awesome.
All right, it looks like we have another question for Meez. Does Meez actually have any intelligence or data to drive suggestions like the apple walnut slaw scenario instead of using notes from servers? So from our perspective on this, and maybe Jynessa can speak to what's captured more in Delightable, this would be just through, comments from servers through day-to-day operation. If you have a system in place that people can leave comments and notes on to kind of track that, absolutely utilize that as your source of truth for making those decisions. But as it stands right now, from our menu perspective, this would be, from interactions of daily with guests, seeing what's getting thrown out and making those changes.
Awesome. And then we have a question about calculating CAC. So for people to understand, it's the cost of acquisition. So we would, because we know how much that you're spending on Delightable and using that product to send emails, and also using Delightable as your repository for your sign-up forms, we would build that in within to your CAC value. If you have other places like a Google Analytics, where you're spending your marketing spend, we can bring that data in as well to blend that into an overall CAC for each individual segments or where these guests are coming from, or as a whole to understand your guests. Hope that answers your question. For what kind of
Yeah, hi.
what
Go.
kind of size of restaurants are you seeing actively calculating CAC? So I would say typically 10 or above. It really depends on, I've seen restaurants where one or two concepts, doing heavy social media, doing heavy, just generalized web marketing, that do measure CAC. I think it really just depends on how much that you're overall spending on your acquisition sources. But because all that data lives within Delightable, it's easier to manage than I've seen so many people just like a Excel sheet of how much that they're spending and how many guests that they're getting, they think that they're getting, and then doing it that way. But by having all the data in one place, you can measure each individual acquisition source, how much that you're spending as well as the return. Sorry,
Any
I
other
feel
questions or comments on just general takeaways from, what we're doing here with Fishbowl and Meez?
as a data nerd, I'm very excited about this connection because I think we started out with, this is the holy grail because really understanding the value of me, who's ordering probably a lower margin item versus my husband, who is just a burger and fries guy. Being able to disseminate, there's two different people who have two different margins, two different preferences, and using that data to make smart decisioning. And I love the way that meez shows that kind of like, if this happens, like what does that look like for my profit? Like that is so very cool, and how you have like all the different menu stuff. So very impressed and very excited about this partnership.
Very excited to not have people in Excel ever again, if need be. I mean, as proud as I am of all the Excel I had to teach myself when I was operating my own restaurant. I remember the first time I saw meez when I started as a customer, I was like, couldn't have told me about this sooner. Where were you 10 years ago? So yeah, if we get you out of Excel, then we've done our job. It looks like we do have another question. Does Meez offer the ability to compare your recipes as a restaurant owner versus similar recipes from other Meez customers to compare metrics and ingredients, even anonymously? At this point in time, we do take IP incredibly seriously, so we do not share recipes or data between Meez customers. However, we do have something called the Meez community, which is a really cool onboarding platform. So if you did want to meet other Meez users and like ask them how they're doing, you're more than welcome to there. It's a really great space for you to be able to see a lot of onboarding resources, talk to our team, but also talk amongst other Meez users and see how their experience is and any takeaways that they have.
Okay, are there any other questions? If we don't have any more questions, I'd like to thank Ursula and Jynessa very much, and all the people who attended as well. And we hope you're excited about this partnership as we are. And if you have any further questions, fishbowl.com/contact sales. Looks like we do have one more question.
All right.
Do you break? Go ahead.
Do you break down ingredients into chemicals and additives to show the customers all nutritional facts? So our nutritional database that we utilize in Meez to generate labels does pull from the USDA. You can either source the ingredients in there directly, or if you're not seeing what you're looking for a specific brand, for example, you can self-submit, and then all of that would be factored right into your nutritional analysis. And then also from a different perspective, when it comes to costing, you are also, of course, able to build your maybe to-go boxes, et cetera, as costs into your recipes. We are not strictly for food. You can cost your beverage programs as well as your to-goes right in there. So that's all going to be kept in one place for you. And of course, if anybody wants to learn more about Meez, you can always visit getmeez.com. You could always, of course, then again, request a demo. We have a link for that also listed into this deck that we are sharing with you today. So if you want to learn more, we're happy to talk and see, if we are a good fit for your operation, if we're not already working with you.
Same thing for Fishbowl, fishbowl.com. It has a link to Delightable, some previews, and also a way to contact us. Awesome. Thank you,
Great.
Ursula.
And just as a reminder, we'll be sending out a recording, link to the recording for this as well. And thank you both so much for a great presentation.
Awesome.
Everyone, it was so nice to meet you all. Have a great rest of your day.